Hi guys, how you doing? So today we're going to take a look at the O11 Dynamic Mini from Lian. Now I've done a build in its biggest brother, the O11 Dynamic, and I really liked it. Now the O11 Dynamic Mini stood out for me because it was a little bit unique, to be honest. The back panel where it changes to accommodate micro ATX, mini ITX, and obviously ATX was kind of quite appealing because obviously in most cases you lose a lot of room if you go for a smaller motherboard, but in this one it appears not to be the case. So what we're going to do in the video today is we're going to take a look around the actual case, have a little chat about that. We'll do a build and then we'll come back and I'll rate it in 6 different categories. So let's do it. So what we're going to do now is have a quick look around the case. Now in order to get access to it, you need to take the top panel off. There's a couple of captive thumb screws at the top. Just undo those, slide it back. We've got a nice aluminium top panel. It's held in place by these little bits here. And there's the captive thumb screws at the back. So in order to get the side panel off, just literally from the bottom, lift up and it comes away. Kept in place with these. And then on the side, you've got a bit of foam padding. So inside we've got plenty of room for everything. What we're going to be doing in the case is putting a 280 in the rear. We're going to have 3 120 fans in the bottom, 3 120s in the top. The case is currently configured for a 7 slot, i.e. an ATX. So what we need to do is use this, and that literally goes in, it goes like that, gets screwed in place, and obviously that extends the size of the motherboard it can support. If you're going to put a mini ITX board, then you don't need to bother with that. So here we've got a couple of grommets, plenty of room for passing our cables, and then up the top here we've got a couple of holes there so we can again pass cables down the bottom here as well. So we've got loads of room for cable management. Down the bottom we have a fan filter. Here's where you put your power supply. Obviously remember it's an SFX or SFXL. Under here is your hard drives. There's a little slider here which locks it in place. So just be careful because when I first got it I forgot to read the instructions and I thought it was broken. And here are your caddies. Pretty decent. So at the moment this is set up as a 7 slot configuration, i.e. ATX. I'll show you mini ITX and then micro ATX because that's the board which we're going to be using today. So let's quickly do it. Okay, so that's the mini ITX setup. So we've got 3 slots down the bottom. Up the top you've got loads of room, so if you want radiators and all of that, so that's really nice. And here you can see it's set up for micro ATX. So let's have a look at the rear. So looking at the rear panel, we've got a couple of vents here. On the other side there are air filters, so we'll have a look at those. To take the panel off, a couple of captive thumb screws, and then you just here you can see it's held in place with the same bits as the top panel. Got the air filters there, held in place with these magnets. But yeah, nice panel. In the back we have, that's the obviously the hard drive cage. Power supply is going to come in here. This is one of your cable management bars and also holds a couple of SSDs. So if we unscrew this, and there's a screw down the bottom. So obviously having the Lian and DeBauer logo is really nice. But yeah. So a couple of tie downs here for the cables when they come through. Remember it is an SFX power supply, so the cables aren't going to be as chunky as with a normal ATX, so that's going to be good. Got plenty of room for everything. If you didn't want to use the hard drive caddy, then obviously you can remove that. There's 4 screws at the rear and it comes away without a problem. You have more room. You might want to put a reservoir or do something else in there. I don't know what you're going to do, but there's going to be plenty of room obviously if you remove it. But yes, that's all pretty good. And now looking at the front, this panel comes off in the same way as the side. Lift up, and there you go. And this is going to be absolutely brilliant for obviously when you're doing all your building. You've got loads of room. I definitely found it in the other case to be really nice. and extra helpful, so that's good. We've got some acrylic here and at the top. I'm not sure how that's going to kind of go, but we'll do a peel of that later on. Okay, and then at the top here, we've got a couple of USBs, USB Type-C, we've got a headphone audio, got a power button, got another filter here, which is quite good. And again, this acrylic, caution, remove the film gently and slowly in this direction. Yeah, I'm not sure why they use that material, to be honest. Acrylic typically marks up really easily, and it's not a good material to work with, so they could have stuck with aluminium. It would look really nice, but you know, they've made that decision. Anyway guys, that's the case. What we're going to do now is we're going to do the build. Guys, so here's the case. Absolutely lovely. I've really enjoyed building it. It's a really good experience. Some cases you get, they're kind of like a bit faffy, but this one was no nonsense. I thought maybe removing the back panel might be a problem. Really easy. Yeah, it's a really good case. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at some of the different categories and we're going to give it a rating. So the first category we're going to look at is design. Now, they've done a fantastic job here. The O11 dynamic was really nice. This one's gone a step further, to be honest. The back panel, obviously you can accommodate mini ITX, micro ATX and full-size ATX. Is different and it works so well. Usually when you put a smaller motherboard in there, you waste a load of room down the bottom. Here you can make the most use of that. Now, it's not brilliant if you want a 360 in the roof and an ATX motherboard because it's just not going to accommodate that. But yeah, there's lots of different options on here. I love the compartments, you know, obviously so everything's separate. The Corsair 280X is a really big favourite of mine, which kind of follows the same sort of design path. Yeah, just really nice. Well done, guys. I'm going to give it 4 stars. So looking at build quality, you know, Lian do a fantastic job all the time. They use good quality materials. It's not always the best in terms of the finished product. Sometimes it's a little bit rough around the edges. You know, it might even be sharp edges. I've had that, to be honest, in the TU150. And here there's a few little imperfections, but nothing's going to kind of like put me off. They've got a great use of tempered glass. Down the bottom, there was a problem with the feet before. They've now rectified that. And I just think, yeah, it's a really well made case. So well done, guys. I'm going to give it 4 stars. So the GPU support in this case is fantastic. 395mm, not a problem at all. If you want, you can get a vertical GPU mount. That is extra, but it's definitely an option that you want. So I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. So the cooler support in this case is fantastic. You know, if you're going to get air cooling, and to be honest, why wouldn't you? You can have up to 170mm. If you're going to go AIO, which I think most people will, and I certainly will, in the rear you can have up to a 280. You can have a 360 in the roof and a 360 in the bottom. The only problem is if you go 360 in the roof, you can't have an ATX motherboard. But other than that, you know, it's fantastic support. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. So the cable management in this case, I think, is very, very good. Now, it's got the grommets in the right places, holes where you want them, round the back. There isn't a fantastic amount of room, to be perfectly honest, because you've got the power supply and you've got the hard drive cage. But with the power supplies being SFX, you know, typically the cables aren't as thick, aren't as long, and I had loads of room. And you've got that cable management bar at the back as well, which kind of helps you push things down. They've done a really good job, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to give it 4 stars. So the last category we look at is value. Now the case runs for about £95, and I think with the build quality, design, materials, fantastic. I haven't got a problem with that. However, if you haven't got an SFX or SFXL power supply, you're going to have to buy one of those. And also fans. You know, there's no fans with the case. You'll need up to 9 fans, and that's going to mount up. So £95 is great. If you've got everything else, brilliant. But if you haven't, you know, what's it going to cost? £95 for the case, £150 for the power supply, you know, another 50, 60, 100, whatever it is, for the fans. Yeah, it's going to get quite expensive quite quickly. So I'm going to go in the middle and I'm going to say 3.5 stars for value. Guys, so I'm going to wrap up the video now. I'm just going to reiterate what I've said before, but I think it's a fantastic case. It's so versatile. Yeah, I think it's one of my favourites. You know, the Corsair 280X, which I've also mentioned, it was right up there as a micro ATX case. This one is it's just better all round. The only thing I don't like about it is that you have to have an SFX power supply. But otherwise, it's such a good case. It really is. If you're on the fence about buying it, don't be. You're not going to be disappointed. Build quality, the versatility, absolutely brilliant. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.